Marseille and PSG are a disgrace. I mean, has nobody noticed? Why has nobody noticed? Nobody seems to understand what a horrendous mess PSG have become this season. I mean, maybe it's because they play in the dregs of the French League. I mean, nobody in England or Ireland has really paid attention to that division all year. I mean, except this there that Fred Weasley lookalike who coaches Reims. Honestly, the world was hypnotized by Will Still fever. I've even got a portrait of him on my wall. Well, PSG are just a few games away from a full-on, complete implosion. And when I say implosion, I mean implosion. Like the plot of A Quiet Place 2. There are a lot of ways that this Parisian giants are embarrassing themselves, but alright, let's start with the first and most obvious one. The most obvious glaring humiliation. That is May 2023. And the Ligue title is still not sewn up. I mean, sure, they're top of the league with 5 games left, but only with 5 points separating them and Marseille. Lads, Lens are just 2 wins behind in third. I mean, PSG beat Lens 3-1 in mid-April after Lens had a man sent off, but if Lens had somehow won that game, then they would be joint top of the league. Lens. They sound like a brand of 2-star spaghetti. Their coach, Frank Heitz, yes, he looked like Roberto De Zerbi's evil twin, but I mean, this guy's CV is about as notable or impressive as that wart on your grandmother's chin. They don't even have any superstar players. Just a collection of Premier League rejects, like Man City's Seko Fofana, Southampton's Kevin Danzo, and Newcastle's Masadio Haidara. The fact that a miniature club like Lens are still breathing down PSG's neck in May is a bit embarrassing, especially when you look at all of the financial steroids. Honestly, it'd be like if Lance Armstrong was still struggling to overtake a grandma on the side of a hill, as is PSG struggling to shake off Marseille, where, to be fair, Alexis Sanchez has gone from being an overweight teddy bear to, 17 goals in all competitions. I mean, fair play. The man turns 35 this year. And considering he's been way past his best for 5.5 years now, I thought he'd be spending his days drinking sangria on a beach in Portugal, surrounded by James Rodriguez, Marcelo, and Danny drink water. Lads, imagine having Messi, Neymar, and Mbappe in your arsenal, and you're still not assured of the title in May. If PSG don't win the league this season, when you've got a literal multiple Ballon d'Or winner in your team, as well as the 2 most expensive footballers of all time, it will be the biggest bottle job in the history of the sport. It will be the opposite of the Leicester City miracle. And lads, it could happen. Can you imagine if PSG bottled the league? I mean, it's not impossible. Clearly the players have less respect for their coach Christopher Gaultier than Prince Andrew has for the feelings of teenagers. Is that joke gonna get me whacked by the MI5? But lads, Christopher Gaultier is an ex-Portsmouth assistant coach. He looks like a boring old school teacher who probably hasn't cracked a smile since 2004. Are these PSG superstars really supposed to be inspired by a former Toulouse left back? I mean, it's been like getting the elitist Kardashian family to gather around at 10 p.m. and listen to a Mark Goldbridge lullaby. Yeah, I think those rich snobs would sooner choke on their own makeup. It also doesn't help that the police are literally investigating allegations towards Gaultier made from his former club Nice, alleging that he didn't want too many African players in his squad. I mean, really? I mean, the police are investigating him. They're investigating Ashraf Hakimi, and they're having to put more security around Neymar's home. I'm sorry, is this PSG or the French remake of Hot Fuzz? Lads, PSG's form in 2022 was borderline perfect. Gaultier's league results last year were incredible, because PSG only dropped 4 points from the club's first 16 league games, when Mbappe netted that 96-minute winner against Strasbourg on the 28th of December. I mean, PSG were 14 points clear of Marseille and running away with the league. Since then, they've lost 3-1 at Lens, were beaten 1-0 at Rennes, dropped 2 points at home with Reims. Yeah, PSG were unable to figure it out how to beat a team coached by some bloke who's got posters of Football Manager on his wall. Honestly, Will Still is just an internet nerd who probably didn't kiss a girl until he was 29. But they lose 3-1 at Monaco, then they have a double header. 2 winnable home matches in a row against Rennes and Lyon. Not only did they lose both, but they didn't even score a goal. And were also binned off at home to Lorient. They were also dumped out of the Coupe de France, round of 16 against Marseille, and again didn't score a single goal across either leg against Bayern Munich in the Champions League. And Bayern Munich, by the way, who aren't actually as good as we all think. I mean, they have failed to win 15 games so far this season. That is unheard of for this German robot machine. In 2023 alone, Gaultier's men have dropped 20 points in the league and forfeited 2 pieces of cup silverware. That is not good. Even the games they've won, they're no longer able to blow teams out of the water anymore. I mean, back in August, PSG turned up to Gautier's former club Lille, 2021 champions, don't forget, and they scored 7. That made it 17 goals scored in the first 3 games of the season. That's how it should have been all season long. PSG should be smashing every team in this division by at least 3 goals every week. But instead, there's been 12 games this season where PSG have only won by a single goal. And if Warren Zaire-Emery, some teenage little boy born in 2006, if he didn't score in the last minute against Montpellier, then that will be 13 one-goal wins. They have had to win 3 games in the last minute. I mean, come on. Should PSG really be having to wait until the 90th minute to find the winner against Brest? PSG will win the league. I mean, navigating through their run-in should be easier than trying to find a virgin at an X-Men film. I mean, the last 5 games are against teams sitting in 18th, 19th, 15th, 16th, and 8th. I mean, if PSG aren't able to hold off Marseille with a 5-point buffer and a fixture list against a bunch of horse piss, then I'm sorry, Gauthier should arguably be given the same fate as Ned Stark. I mean, Nasser Khelafi should order the French police to let him stick his head in the fridge, but that's not the point. PSG are stumbling over the line in what is supposed to be a farmers league. It is embarrassing. I feel like a frustrated school teacher who's annoyed that his teen prodigy isn't applying himself and instead smoking in the toilets and scraping D's in history. But I'm sorry, Manchester City are a club who regularly take home 95 plus points in the toughest league in the world. PSG, they also have a 38 league game season and they think that 85 points is acceptable. They should be clearing 100 points every single year, but instead the last 12 years, since the money has been pumped into their club about as aggressively as Botox is pumped into Monica's face, it's been 86 points, 82 points, 68 points, 91 points, 93 points, 87 points, 96 points, 83 points, 89 points, 83 points, and 79 points. I mean, they were getting somewhere under Unai Emery. They should have got 100 points with him. They really should. Can I sum up? In the spring of 2018, it was the debut season for both Mbappe and Neymar, and they had 90 points with 4 games left. They should have done it, but didn't win any of the last 4 games and wound up at 93. PSG is an absolute mess. I mean, last summer, Nasser Khelafi said they had changed their transfer policy.
Today we must be realistic. We don't want flashy bling bling anymore. It's the end of the glitter.
You know, in a weird way, I sort of believe it. Because last summer, PSG bought Nuno Mendes from Sporting Lisbon, Vitinha from Porto, Hugo Ekitike from Reims, Nordi Mukiele from RB Leipzig, Renato Sanchez from Lille, and Carlos Soler from Valencia. None of them are big flashy names. So this policy of lucrative free agents on massive money, they decided not to do that anymore. I mean, crazy in that summer shopping list, there's flops from Wolves and Swansea. PSG tried to be sensible with their signings last summer. A bit like a rich housewife who is addicted to spending all the family's money on purses and shoes. I mean, when going out to buy broccoli and milk, she just comes back with empty Tesco bags and a Gucci handbag instead. But now she's trying to change and actually shop like a normal human being. That was PSG last summer. But if that change in transfer policy yields 2nd place in the league and once again 0 Champions League finals, then they'll be back to the bling as soon as the final whistle goes in May. The situation with Mbappe is and always has been a mess. I mean, PSG recently released a video on social media aimed at next season's ticket holders, asking fans to renew for the 23-24 season, with the promotion heavily featuring Mbappe in the video. Obviously. I mean, fairly innocuous, right? I mean, if you want the fans to fork out and pay money for their seats, obviously you're going to advertise the club's biggest star. In the same way if Hollywood bring out the next John Wick film, I mean, you're going to have Keanu Reeves in the trailer. I mean, it would be a bit weird if instead it was just 3 minutes worth of footage of random pigs eating poo off the floor, but Mbappe was offended.
I have just seen the club's resubscription campaign for the 23-24 season, and no time was I informed of the content of it with my representatives. I did not agree to the posted video. This is why I fight for individual image rights. PSG is a great club and a great family, but it's definitely not Kylian Saint-Germain.
I think we all know what's happening here. Mbappe doesn't want to be at PSG next season, so he doesn't want to trick the fans into thinking that he will. Why else would he be so offended at being in a PSG trailer? I mean, it's a bit like someone who's preparing to divorce his wife. It's a bit like him throwing a straw when his mother-in-law frames a photo of him on their fridge. Yeah, I mean, unless it's a photo of you sniffing a horse's crotch, then I think you should relax, big guy. If Mbappe had such a problem with this video, then ring your president on the telephone instead of sending a message to your 108 million Instagram followers. Speaking of which, PSG have the most powerful collection of elite footballers in the world. In terms of influence, it's dangerous. Because this is a club were only created in 1970. You know, just 2 years before the first Godfather film. Is anyone really supposed to take this club seriously as a monster entity steeped in history when they're legitimately younger than Chandler of Friends? Lads, the likes of Jay-Z, Hugh Jackman and Will Smith have all been alive longer than PSG. I mean, there's probably only about 10 granddads in the world who grew up supporting PSG. And yet Messi, Neymar and Mbappe have a combined 821 million followers on Instagram compared to PSG's 4 million on Twitter. So Now, who's really in charge here? Who is actually in control? I mean, this is a club that only began after the Real Madrid president at the time advised them to start a crowdfunding campaign. PSG was essentially birthed due to a GoFundMe page. I mean, what else? Gianluigi Donnarumma has been a disaster and apparently wants to leave. He hasn't settled into the dressing room and his teammates don't even have confidence in him. How about this PSG ownership? Signed both Buffon and Buffon's heir, and both have been flops. What else? I mean, I won't even touch on the Ashraf Hakimi stuff, but that's another gigantic mess. They were dumped out of the Champions League against Bayern Munich in February, and Sergio Ramos, an experienced leader and a great example to the younger generation, he then shoved the photographer out of the way, as if he was Conor McGregor on roid rage. I mean, PSG fans seem to hate their players. They've even turned on their other star centre half too.
Marquinhos is the main culprit behind PSG failure. Marquinhos is the most overrated player in the world. As long as he is the captain of the ship, it will never reach a destination like UCL, Danilo, Vitinha, etc.
PSG are a mess. I mean, this is the outside of Neymar's house. Imagine being a grown man and doing this at 1 PM on a Wednesday. PSG fans are literally stood outside this man's mansion and chanting for him to get out of the club. But why? Neymar is literally one of the best players in the history of your club. I mean, he's definitely top 4 after Messi, Mbappe and Ronaldinho. Yeah, I know his arrival was supposed to bring about a Champions League win, and that hasn't happened. But I'm sorry, the Brazilian has 118 goals and 77 assists in 173 games. He has contributed to a goal being scored on average every 14 minutes in a PSG shirt. He has scored more and assisted more for PSG than he ever did for Barcelona in roughly the same amount of games. So please, what is this? I know it was annoying that he got sent off for diving against Strasbourg, but it was Strasbourg. Neymar should have been able to play that game in a wheelchair and still win the match. I mean, Neymar is now liking anti-PSG posts on Instagram, agreeing that they are a small club with no history. How toxic can you get? This is woeful. Looking at PSG, it's probably been like a therapist observing Date Night with Chris Brown. I mean, pick the wrong DVD and he's probably biting off your ear. PSG is so toxic. The club are actually having to increase security at both the homes of Neymar and Messi. PSG fans are already protesting because they want Messi to leave the club, which, I mean, he is doing now. I mean, the club suspended Messi without pay for 2 weeks because he flew to Saudi Arabia without permission. I mean, it's not good to say the players are bigger than the club, but he's bigger than the club. This guy has just won the World Cup. If he wants to bring his wife on holiday, then you let him bring his wife on holiday. If I was employing the literal goat of the sport, Messi could go down the local graveyard and start digging up the skeletons of old ladies, and I still wouldn't give him a fine. He could literally wipe his bum on the curtains of my office, defecate in my mug of hot chocolate before driving his car into the wall of a church, and I still wouldn't be suspending this man. What a mess. PSG got what they wanted. When they signed Messi in 2021, the only goal, forget Champions Leagues, that goal was to have an Mbappe versus Messi World Cup final in Qatar. And they got their wish. The 2 biggest superstars from that World Cup were PSG toys. But now, they don't need him anymore. So they're just gonna throw him away as if he's a melted Kit Kat in their pocket. Lads, of course Messi flew to Saudi Arabia. If any company on earth are offering you £400 million a year, you go and hear them out. Even if it's an evil company who sell bottles of poisonous breast milk. I mean, for £400 million a year, you go and hear them out. I don't care if you are being interviewed by a James Bond villain. PSG fans finding it disgraceful that he would negotiate behind their back. I'm sorry, his PSG contract is literally up next month. This guy is just weeks away from no longer having a job, and he's been offered 4 times a Floyd Mayweather paycheck. I don't blame him for wanting to set up a meeting. Apparently David Beckham wants him for Inter Miami too. Yeah, I mean, they're 11th in the MLS. They just lost 6 games in a row, and Phil Neville has still kept his job. Can Beckham not see that his former Man United mate is about as tactically clued in as his brother? I mean, if you're a football chair, you might as well stick the Cookie Monster in the dugout before you trust either Neville brother. So yeah, I think Messi would sooner eat a bowl of soup filled with broken glass than agree to become teammates with DeAndre Yedlin and Harvey Neville. But Messi has announced that he's leaving PSG. Probably because, yeah, they have dared to suspend him. Who suspends Messi? That has made up his mind. He was probably on the fence before, but now no chance that he'll stick around in Paris. I think he's going to rejoin Barcelona. Yes, he's 36 in June, but come on. It was always weird to see him in a PSG kit. I mean, it was a bit sad. It just spoiled his one man club legacy. But he's a Barca legend. He's got to return to the Nou Camp. They're officially now the best team in Spain, which is weird to say considering they just failed in the Europa League, while Real Madrid are gunning for their 6th Champions League in 9 years. But they are, and I'm pretty sure the offer to move back home, link up with Xavi in this new look Barca team, and playing behind Robert Lewandowski in the number 10 role. Messi's probably having to wipe drool off his face at night. But what else? Neymar will be off, and Todd Bowley is the only man interested. No doubt he's going to sanction a £500,000 a week salary and a 6-year contract for a 31-year-old when the club themselves aren't even going to be able to qualify for the Conference League. I think Messi will go to Barca, Neymar will go to Chelsea, and in 2024 Mbappe will be at Real. And what then? Just beg Christopher and Cuckoo to come back? This PSG vanity project is crumbling. It's a chaos. It's a mess. It's just so very toxic. Anyway, that's the end of it. Let me know in the comments, what do you think? What has gone so wrong with PSG? Let me know if you enjoyed the video. Don't forget to like, subscribe as always. I'll talk to you in a while.